The desperate search. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It tapped gently against the hospital window, a soft counterpoint to the storm unraveling inside Sarah's mind. At just 43, she hadn't imagined her life would be reduced to beeping monitors and whispered consultations behind closed doors. Melanoma, stage 4. It had started as a small mole on her shoulder, nothing alarming. By the time the fatigue set in and the scans revealed the truth, it had already reached her lungs. Sarah Parker wasn't the type to surrender. A schoolteacher, a single mother, a marathon runner. She was the definition of endurance. But cancer had rewritten her story without permission. 2 rounds of chemotherapy had failed to slow it. Radiation only brought more exhaustion. The oncologist's words still echoed from the last meeting, "We've exhausted standard treatment options." That phrase, standard treatment options, sounded so mechanical, so final. She sat in silence, hands clasped tightly in her lap, when Dr. Patel returned with a different expression. There was something in his eyes, hesitation wrapped in hope. "There is one more possibility," he said carefully. "It's not a guaranteed path, but it's promising. Immunotherapy." The word felt foreign. Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Is that like chemo?" "No," he replied. "It works differently. Instead of attacking the cancer directly, it trains your immune system to do the fighting. It's part of a clinical trial, still experimental for your type of cancer. But we've seen some incredible responses." Sarah's first instinct was skepticism. How could something she'd never heard of succeed where everything else had failed? But beneath the uncertainty, something stirred, something dangerously close to hope. "Will it hurt?" she asked. Dr. Patel gave a measured nod. "It has side effects. It won't be easy. But it might give you more time. Maybe even remission." That night, Sarah lay in the sterile hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Her daughter, Lily, had left her a drawing earlier, a picture of the 2 of them holding hands under a sun that took up half the sky. In the corner, Lily had scribbled, "You're stronger than the sickness." Sarah folded the drawing carefully and tucked it beside her pillow. Her thoughts were a blur of what-ifs and memories, but one thing was clear: this trial wasn't just for her. It was for every birthday she wanted to see, every bedtime story she hadn't yet told. When morning came, she signed the consent form. It wasn't courage, exactly, not in the way movies show it. It was more like necessity. When the door of certainty closed, Sarah stepped through the only one left open. She didn't know if this treatment would work. She only knew she had to try. And sometimes, that's where real stories begin, not in triumph, but in the moment someone chooses to keep going when everything says to stop. The science behind the breakthrough. When Sarah agreed to the trial, she entered a world that felt more like science fiction than medicine. Words like checkpoint inhibitors, T-cells, and cytokines filled the air in hushed explanations. Yet, at the heart of it, the concept was surprisingly simple. The body could heal itself, if only it could be shown how. Her immune system, once a silent guardian, had failed her. Cancer was a master of disguise. Tumors cloaked themselves, blending in with healthy cells, slipping past the defenses meant to destroy them. For years, doctors fought cancer with blunt tools, cutting it out, burning it, poisoning it. But none of those methods asked the body to take part in the battle. That's what made immunotherapy different. It didn't attack the tumor directly. It gave the immune system new eyes, a new voice, a new target. Sarah's treatment focused on checkpoint inhibitors, drugs that blocked the off switches cancer used to paralyze her immune cells. It was as if her T-cells, natural cancer killers, had been trapped behind glass, watching helplessly as the disease spread. Now, with these new medications, that glass was cracking. Dr. Patel explained it like this: imagine your immune system is a soldier trained to fight intruders. But cancer tricks it into thinking nothing is wrong. These drugs remove the blindfold. In the weeks that followed, Sarah sat through long infusions, watching the slow drip of clear liquid into her veins. The side effects came quickly: fevers, fatigue, inflammation, but so did something else. The scans showed a faint reduction. Small at first, but measurable. For the first time in months, the cancer wasn't growing. Behind the scenes, an army of researchers had made this moment possible. Years earlier, Dr. James Allison, a stubborn Texan scientist, had refused to let the immune system's potential be ignored. He discovered CTLA-4, a molecule that acted as a brake on T cells. By blocking it, he unleashed the immune system's full power, an idea so bold it earned him the Nobel Prize. Now, Sarah was part of that legacy, a living chapter in a story still being written. But immunotherapy wasn't a miracle. It worked for some, not all. The science was still evolving, still imperfect. And no one, not even Dr. Patel, could say if Sarah would be among the success stories. Still, for the first time, Sarah felt like a participant in her own rescue. Her body wasn't just enduring the war. It was learning how to fight back. Outside her hospital window, the rain had cleared. The light was different now, softer, more deliberate. Something was shifting, both in the sky and in her cells. The battle was far from over. But finally, the fight had begun on her terms. Trials, triumphs, and setbacks. By the third month of treatment, Sarah had memorized the rhythm of the clinic, the sharp scent of antiseptic, the low murmur of nurses, the quiet courage of those sitting beside her. Everyone in the immunotherapy trial carried a different story, but their faces told the same tale, exhaustion edged with hope. Some were responding well. One man, a retired mechanic with lung cancer, had entered partial remission. Another, a young mother from Denver, saw her tumors shrink by nearly 60%. There was cautious celebration, but it was never loud. Every gain felt like borrowed time. Sarah's progress was measured in millimeters. Each scan brought a knot of dread she didn't know how to untangle. But then came the 5th week, when the radiologist paused, eyes narrowing at her results. "There's a change," he said, and this time it wasn't a euphemism. "The tumors are smaller. Significantly." Dr. Patel confirmed it the next day. "Your immune system is doing what it's supposed to," he told her, a rare smile breaking through his usual restraint. "It's recognizing the cancer. It's fighting back." For a few seconds, Sarah couldn't speak. Not because the news stunned her, but because, for once, it didn't feel like a trap. She'd grown used to temporary victories that led only to deeper losses. But this time felt different. Still, progress came with a price. Her body reacted fiercely. The treatment, while effective, sparked inflammation in her lungs and joints. She developed a persistent cough, and her skin broke into a rash that itched like wildfire. On one particularly brutal night, her fever spiked so high that Lily's panicked 911 call brought paramedics to their door. Dr. Patel warned her this was common. "Your immune system is awake now," he said. "Sometimes, it struggles to tell friend from foe." Sarah had to pause treatment for 2 weeks while steroids calmed the storm inside her. During that time, doubt crept in. What if the pause gave the cancer a window? What if her body, newly armed, turned on itself? She looked to the other patients. Some were gone, moved to different protocols, or simply no longer there. Others, like her, hovered in that uncertain space between recovery and relapse. Yet even on the hardest days, Sarah refused to call herself a survivor. Not yet. The word felt too final, too clean. What she was doing wasn't surviving, it was enduring, adapting, advancing. And in the world of immunotherapy, that counted for everything. When her treatment resumed, the fear was still there, but so was resilience. Sarah had changed. She wasn't the same woman who had clung to a hospital bed with nothing but a child's drawing to hold her up. Now she was part of something bigger, a movement, a breakthrough, a quiet revolution waged cell by cell. The fight continued, uncertain and imperfect. But in this fragile progress, there was power. And the world was beginning to notice. The future of immunotherapy. By the time Sarah completed her final round of treatment, spring had returned to the city. The trees outside the hospital bloomed as if on cue, their pink and white blossoms defying the sterile gray of the buildings. She walked out of the clinic quietly, no parade, no grand farewell. Just one step after another, each one a reminder that she could. Her most recent scans showed no active tumors. "Complete response," Dr. Patel had said. "We'll keep monitoring, but you're in remission." The words didn't feel real at first. Not after everything. Not after so many hospital beds, so many nights spent wondering if her daughter would grow up without her. But there it was, hope not as a concept, but as data, as measurable medical truth. Sarah wasn't alone in her journey. Across the world, patients were living longer thanks to the same therapies that had saved her. CAR T-cell treatments, once experimental, were now transforming outcomes for blood cancers. Personalized cancer vaccines, tailored to each person's tumor, were entering clinical trials. Artificial intelligence was being used to predict which patients would respond best to specific immunotherapies, reducing the guesswork and increasing precision. Still, the path forward remained uneven. These breakthroughs were expensive, and access varied wildly between countries and even neighborhoods. Not all cancers responded. Not all immune systems played along. And for every story like Sarah's, there were others still waiting for their miracle. But the landscape was shifting. Sarah now volunteered with an advocacy group, speaking quietly but passionately to families facing what she once faced. Her story wasn't polished or dramatic. It was raw, honest, and real. She told them about the fear, the side effects, the uncertainty. But more importantly, she told them about the possibility. About the science that had turned a last resort into a lifeline. One evening, as she helped Lily with homework, the little girl looked up and asked, "Are you better now?" Sarah paused. "I'm better today," she said. "And that's what matters." Because that's what immunotherapy offered, not just a chance at a longer life, but at moments. Moments like bedtime stories and missed math problems and the quiet hum of an ordinary evening. Cancer hadn't disappeared, but it no longer had the final word. And for people like Sarah, and for the thousands walking the same uncertain path, it meant that the fight could be more than survival. It could be progress. It could be healing. It could be hope written into the very code of the human body. The war wasn't over. But for the first time, the tide was turning.